Hi, welcome to Inside the Moms Club, where being a mom is the coolest place to be. Here in the Moms Club, we believe that what embarrasses you now will make a great story later. And let's face it, if you don't laugh sometimes, you're going to cry. Join us in having a good laugh together. I'm Monica Samuels. You are now inside the Moms Club, your private destination for all things mom. Welcome, moms. Welcome to Inside the Moms Club. I'm Monica Samuels, and I'm here with my co-host today, Julie Orchid.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Julie. So how are you doing today? Is it a good day?
Oh, my God. It's an incredible day. How are you?
Well, I don't like to complain, but I'm going to.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so I have suddenly developed a pain in my hip that has gotten a little bit out of control. And I am now, and
we sound like a progressive commercial.
We do sound like a progressive commercial.
Yes.
And so, I love classic TV. I mean, I'm really into that. And there's an episode in I Love Lucy where, if you don't remember this, Tennessee Ernie Ford describes her and says, "You got a hitch in your get-along."
Hitch in your get-along.
I feel like I have a hitch in my get-along, which is not good.
Yeah.
I'm a young, vibrant woman, and suddenly I've got like
a hitch in your get-along.
A hitch in my get-along. I mean, I'm just kind of limping along here, so it's just not good. So, but when that happened, I thought that phrase came to my mind, and I thought that was a great TV show. I love all TV. I love old films. I love new films.
Right.
And
I teach you about the new films. You teach me about the older films.
I do. Well, okay.
We're a good team.
I'll give you an example. Yesterday, someone said to us that we were going to be in like Flynn. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that phrase came from Errol Flynn, who had been accused of statutory rape, and that's sort of how that started. But he was also very, he got around, let's say.
Yeah.
So, but that's what that phrase means. Or that's where it came from. But now everybody says, you're going to do a great job, you're going to do great. You're in like Flynn. You're going to get that job. Or but that's not really what it started out to be. So, so much of like what's in television and movies and everything has affected our culture so much. It just becomes part of
Well, not only that, but especially during COVID. I mean, like, we were all, pretty much dating Netflix or Prime Video or any all of that. Peacock, you name it. Like, yes, all of that stuff. So, TV was important.
You get it. It still is. And I have to admit, I'm into all that stuff. I'm particularly into the royal family. I mean, I don't want to admit that exactly, but... Yeah. I just can't get enough of it because it's like, you just can't look away. There's so much happening. Even when you try to look away, you're kind of like, what's happening? Yeah, it is. Yeah. And then today, there's this debate. Are you on team, Harry and Meghan, or are you on team William and Kate? I mean, it's just so fascinating to me.
Love every second of it.
I do. Though. I get into all of that. I mean, and the old stars, the new stars, I'm into all of that. Which is why I will tell you why I was so excited about our guest today, because our guest probably has the scoop on a lot of the stuff that we care so much about. She is the senior supervising producer for Access Hollywood, and she has over 20 years of producing experience. She has expert knowledge of film, fashion, pop culture, beauty, and living green, all the things that we care about and love to read about and see on television. She's involved in a very important cause, Foster Care Counts, which is an organization that improves the lives of foster kids and ensures that they thrive. And that is so near and dear to our heart. We've even talked about that ourselves.
Critically important.
She became a first-time mom after the age of 40. I mean, this woman is amazing and impressive.
Right there.
Welcome, Susan Moore. Welcome to the Moms Club.
So excited to be here. I mean, listen, I haven't been to a club in about 20 years, so this is like my favorite type of club. I get to be in bed by 8:00. I'm stoked.
love that.
Thank you for having me. I mean, listen, if you're going to ask me which team I vote for, can we pick both teams?
Sure. We can.
Right?
We can find things we like about both teams. Nobody's cornered the market on.
Let me tell you, when you go, apparently the inside scoop is that when you go visit Meghan Markle at her home in Montecito and you depart their home, she will give you a little carton of eggs from her little hen house.
Oh.
Yes.
I think she did that with Oprah.
She has special labels on it, and they're pink and blue, and she sends you off with a few eggs.
She's down to earth.
She's just like us.
Yeah. I mean, just like us.
They are so much like us. That's why we relate so well and learn and want to know so much about them. Right. So you have been Access Hollywood for over 300 episodes.
Yes, I've been producing Access Hollywood since the 2000s when celebrities used to throw phones at each other and get thrown in jail. Now they're having babies and making Hallmark movies, all of those celebrities, and making wonderful comebacks. But I've seen it all, and it is a wonderful, wonderful place to work, especially for being a busy mom like myself. It really is an incredible place.
So reading about your job, I'm going to be super honest. I mean, it almost makes my sweater a little hot. I'm kind of pit sweating because it seems so stressful to, I work well under pressure, but I want to hear a little bit about how you handle that because there's other moms who are listening who have high pressure jobs. And, what's your secret?
Ooh, okay. My big secret, I think, is to do it all with humor, which you guys obviously
specialize in.
Mantra. You never take yourself too seriously. We are not curing cancer at Access Hollywood. We're here to entertain. Right. And I do a thing. I really do this thing. It's kind of do we call it the triage approach?
Yes, you're speaking my language.
Mm-hmm. It's the triage approach. And I really do feel like you take a look at what you have in the room and, what's bleeding out. Okay, I might go over there. Who can hang on? What baby's at breech? Who's going to, and what do I do first?
So, Susan, clearly you were a ER nurse before this. Yeah. That's what I used to do. And I was like, did she just say, scan the room? Who can we help? How can we stop the bleeding? And what babies breach and which ones not? Good stuff.
And some things you just got to let go.
Yeah. Okay.
Some things will, listen, Ellen Pompeo will walk away from the person that has the stab wound because they'll hold on for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I sort of that's sort of my sanity. And that's how I kind of get through the day. And you don't try to do everything at once. And sometimes you might not get to something.
Yep.
And that is okay.
You know what I love too I think of producers of shows like Vince Lombardi. I think of them like the coach of the Super Bowl team. Because what I've always told my kids when they were like, oh, I want to be the starting, I want to be Tom Brady. Well, no, that's a bad example because he's been around for 20 years. I want to be, the starting quarterback of an NFL team. Like, no, you really want to be the successful head coach who is always there. So you just described earlier the trends, things that have changed. Like celebrities, they do come and go, and sometimes they come back.
Yes.
But you get to see it all as it's happening. So that's got to be such an exciting job. And I mean, because of that, you're describing everything that you're an expert in film, fashion, pop culture. You've been part of it all, and you just see the trends and how it must be just an exciting job.
I was covering George Clooney when he said he was going to be a bachelor forever, and now he has twins, and I'm writing questions about his twins speaking Italian.
Yes.
I mean, in the 2000s, I was covering Lindsay Lohan and her rise and her fall, right? And, her mugshots kept me very busy.
Yeah.
And now I'm, a couple weeks ago, I'm covering her in a Netflix film for Christmas, right? So I've kind of seen it all. The biggest difference that I think that, our show has contributed and changed, we just had a really big interview with Jake Gyllenhaal and Gabrielle Union. Huh. And, this only happens when you have women running the show. Okay. I have a senior EP who's a woman. Her name is Maureen Fitzpatrick, and she really lifts up women and lets us, voice our opinions. And so we sat down with Jake Gyllenhaal and Gabrielle Union for their movie Strange World. And it's an animated movie. And, I looked at the research with Jake, and I'm like, he has this animated movie. Mm-hmm. He has a book, a kid's book coming out, and he has no kids, and he's kind of a bachelor, right? So we posed the question, when are you going to start a family? Do you want to start a family? Are you interested in that? And Gabrielle Union stopped the interview. Oh. And she said, finally, equity. Finally, the man in the room is being asked that question about starting a family and not the woman in the room.
Okay, that's brilliant.
Right?
Yes.
That wouldn't have happened, without me being in the room. And so she really, I got to send you the recording of that, because she really did stop and say, wow, thank you for doing that. Mm-hmm. And kind of turning the tables and, having equity in those types of questions.
I love that. Well, because we're all moms here, tell us your story, because starting a family, you had your child after 40, then your child's 5 years old?
105, yes.
Wow.
In
so
5 years, it's yes.
What has that been like? Because as a professional woman, you were working, I was an attorney for years, and I know what that was like. And then trying to juggle. I even wrote a book about it later called Comeback Moms, because I took time off and well, how am I going to get back? And then when I wrote the book, it was so much fun writing the book. I thought, well, I don't really want to go back to that.
Yeah,
that's what women have.
Can relate.
They're very flexible. So what made you decide to start a family, and what's that been like for you professionally? What's the adjustment?
I think, to be honest, I think for me, right, I was addicted to the action. I love the action. I love the pace of our show. It changes every single day. And there was always there's always that big project that's coming up. Oh my God, Cannes Film Festival is next year. Well, I got to hit that. Oh my gosh, the Tokyo Olympics are next year. Well, I got to do that. And so I was always pushing it back, never thinking that perhaps we cannot have kids forever. And I just really didn't think about that until I finally decided, okay, we're going to start a family. And I went to a fertility doctor. He was this very wonderful fertility doctor in LA who has had many celebrity babies. And he sat me down and he said, okay, well, let me tell you your odds when you're 44. And he said, okay, so here's the deal. We are sitting at this round table, and he poured out a giant industrial bag of Starburst. And he said, okay, well, how many Starbursts do you think, these Starbursts represent your ovaries. And he said, how many do you think you have at 27? And I was like, well, I don't know, the whole bag. He said, you sure do. And he says, well, how many do you think you have at 35? And I said, I don't know, 90% of them. He goes, wrong. Yeah. And he takes his arm and he takes half of the Starburst and he throws them off the table and puts them in the trash can. And I was like, oh man, what does that mean? And then he says, well, what do you think at 40? And I was like, well, maybe 80% of that. And he takes his arm again and he shoves it into the trash can. And I was literally left with 5 ovaries. I was left with 5 delicious Starbursts.
Yes.
And he said, these are your odds of having kids at 44. We'll do the best we can. And I was fortunate. To have little Wyatt at age, and he's 5 now. And he's wonderful. But, you tend to forget that we have a shelf life. And because you're having a great time in your career. Mm-hmm. I think that, though, it's been so beneficial for me because as an older mom, you just reflect more and you have a little more patience, and you perhaps I have more patience. I don't know, but I think I do. And I think I'm a better mom for it.
Yeah, I think that you might be a little bit more present. I can only speak for myself.
Yeah.
But
I lucked out. I lucked out. Not everyone does.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's super. That's such a cool story. Is your child fluent in both of the languages that you know, 3, I'm assuming that.
Yes. So he actually, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
He's
like, how smart is your child is really what I'm asking.
He's brilliant. Of course, like all children.
Yeah. But yeah, he did go to a Chinese immersion school. He did.
Oh, wow.
He was in preschool. Yeah.
Yes.
So he actually, I think, knew more than I did. When he would come home, he would like want to practice. And he's like, that's wrong, Mom. Man. So,
Get used to that. Get used to that. You're wrong, Mom.
We are teaching him Chinese and you know, it's great. It's been great.
That is great. So what was the transition like for, now you mentioned earlier there's a lot of women that work at Access Hollywood, which is amazing.
Yes.
So that makes a difference in the room. But when they saw you coming in, now you're the mother of an infant and they knew you professionally, how did that change? Did it change at all? Or did you notice something different in your work life pre-Wyatt versus now that you have a child?
I would say that if anything, it's just been, I don't know. There hasn't really been a change in terms of how people have reacted, but I do believe that in the beginning, I thought that I had to make every meeting. And there's this infamous story that, you know, my senior EP loves to tell where we're having this morning meeting and I was late for drop off. So I have Wyatt hidden in my jacket and I come swooping in the meeting and he's about 8 months old and he's under my jacket and I'm sitting in the back of the room in the meeting, in this editorial meeting. And my senior EP looks at me, she goes, is there a baby under your jacket? I said, actually, yeah, he's right here. I didn't want to miss the meeting. And she goes, are you insane? She goes, go do drop off. You're fine. You know, you don't need to be Les Mis right now. Go do drop off, take care of you. And I think that's really held that philosophy of, you know, taking care of our moms at work has really stuck. So when I have to do drop off, just not an issue at Access.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's the other side of the coin, and that is the moms at school. Because that's a big thing. I mean, that's actually how we met. We were moms together at our.
We don't want to tell the story of how you and I met. Yeah,
we won't tell the whole story. But it can be challenging. The other moms at school, especially with my second child, I wasn't the oldest mom, but there was the older side, and then there was those moms that they just, you know, they were 22 and this is their first child. And there seems like there's a different feel of, you know, the moms. So how's that been relating to the other moms at school? Or have you bonded with a bunch of moms now too? Or what's the life like with that?
Well, I feel like we've bonded because most of the moms in our class are older moms. I've lucked out with that.
That is lucky, yeah.
But then again, I live in Los Angeles, so I feel like, you know, there might be a trend here in older moms. Yeah. But everyone's, you know, I think thankfully there hasn't been any challenges. Although I can't really get the WhatsApp situation. There's lots of right.
Yeah.
I mean, who can keep up with the WhatsApp conversations? That's my question to you. Am I supposed to keep up with this?
I think if you have the job that you have, I don't think that you could keep up with all that. Like, I mean, it's really super, super intense. So to follow all that. So
yes, it is.
We have our own going, and it's kind of, you know, it can be challenging.
It can be challenging. I missed one day because I was flying out here.
Right.
And my friend's like, well, it was actually my sister. That was on another thread. And she's like, you didn't comment about my vacation, and I had some really great pictures. And yeah, I'm like, oh, I've been traveling. I mean, I've been busy. So yeah, I don't think they would expect. I mean, that's totally fine that you don't have to do that.
Okay, so, good. I just need to be reassured.
Yeah, no, you're good.
I miss a Playdate WhatsApp invitation.
You're all good. You're all good. So we're going to help you too here. So we have, as a feature of our show, we have Zoomer moms who join us. And they're going to ask you some questions, but you can ask them questions because there's some seasoned moms here that can help you out.
Yeah, we want to flip the table
exactly.
a little bit.
So welcome, Zoomer moms. Welcome to the Moms Club.
Thank you.
Is this the point where we get the mojitos?
Where we what?
where we get a mojito. No.
Oh, this is the part.
And I certainly wish we were taking mojitos.
Yes, we should have all. Yeah, this is where we normally would have a mojito, but this time I guess we did not do that yet. But afterwards we will, so we can get together. And the woman who's the queen of the mojito is here. Well, actually, two of them. Leslie Harrell, introduce yourself to Susan. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and you have a question for Susan, and then Susan may have a question for you.
Yes, that's okay. Susan, I'm Leslie Harrell. I'm from Austin, Texas. I have two children that are much older than yours. I have a son who's 17, and then I have a daughter who's 20. And just like, it's so interesting talking about this because, you know, in the field that you're in, you know, the Access Hollywood thing is so, it digs into people, right? And there's a lot of that goes on. And so, like, how do you think that has influenced you, like, having a young kid? Because, you know, like, when I became a parent, all of a sudden, I was so much more aware of what was on television and, like, how my kid would respond to what was on television. So, like, has that affected how you produce shows? Do you find yourself looking at it through a slightly different lens because of that?
Oh, 100%, because our show is on at 7:30. So what I'm thinking is, well, actually, there's a few things I'm thinking. One is, I know that busy mom is juggling her laundry, the groceries, making dinner, and getting homework done for the kids, right? Depending whatever age it is, you are doing 4 things at once, period. While your husband is probably sitting on the couch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Making a snack for himself. So I'm always trying to think of what will make you actually put down your dishes for a second and watch the show, and what will speak to you and what you'll be interested in knowing about. And I think we have changed our programming to sort of appeal to women. I mean, you're who watches our show, and you're exactly, you know, who we want to attract. And so you're always trying to think of, you know, what topics would you be interested in? And we're always leaning in when we get a Mindy Kaling or, you know, someone who is a mom to talk about their experiences, a Gabrielle Union. Tell me about drop off.
Yeah.
You know, she talks about, I forget what she says. She has the drop and swoop or something, you know, the drop and spin at drop off. And I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? She goes, well, you drop off and you spin off before they start to cry. And so with that in mind, as a mom now, I'm always thinking, well, what would appeal to me? And what can I take away from the show as a mom who, you know, if I'm sitting down, it used to be different. I used to interview celebrities and we used to talk about frivolous things, but now I want to dig into what their experiences are like. And, you know, we've changed our questions. We kind of talked about this earlier. Like, I would never ask a mom now, how do you balance everything? Because guess what? We don't. We don't. And to ask a mom of that question, it's ridiculous because we're like spinning plates constantly, right?
Yeah.
And so, and things are
not being perfect is cool.
That question has been killed permanently from our repertoire. We will never ask a mom that question ever again.
Love that.
Absolutely. Well, great question and great answer. Now, do you have a question for Leslie? Because Leslie has older kids and you have a 5-year-old son, so she can give you some wisdom from Leslie.
Help me. I was not realizing that my son just started kindergarten. He's 5 years old. He goes to Wonderland. And the other day at drop off, I walked into his classroom and halfway he turned around and he went like this.
The ultimate insult.
And I didn't know what this meant. And I kept going. And he said, no, Mom, I'm okay. And a single slow tear went down my face. And I'm just wondering, as someone with kids in college, that you probably had to deal with drop off at college, I'm sure you have your story there. You know, how do I handle the independence that he has now?
You know, my kids were pretty independent from a pretty young age. So it was always, I'm going to say that as it goes on, there's a lot of slugs in the gut. And there's a lot of those moments when you're like, oh, wow, that took me by surprise. And so, you know, I don't think it ever gets any easier because like we this year at the holidays, it's the first year our daughter, who is a 20-year-old, junior in college, said, I'm not spending Thanksgiving with you guys. I'm gonna go to my boyfriend's family's house in Park City.
Look at Monica's face. It's like this.
Yeah. And exactly. You're like, what?
Oh, wow.
Like, you're not gonna spend and here's a kid who, when she was younger, she looked at her dad and she goes, I think I'm gonna marry an orphan. I don't want to share my family. Like, I want to have all my holidays with my family. So her original thing was, I'm going to marry an orphan. And then here she was on a plane flying off, and you just take her to the airport and you just sit in your car and you watch her walk through the gate. And you're like,
I can't.
Okay, bye. So
I mean,
I'm going to tell you, it doesn't get any easier. You just kind of roll with it, and you have to just take the whole, like, what, this is what's supposed to happen. We're supposed to prepare them to be adults and send them on their way. And that includes from the kindergarten walking through the door and saying, I don't need you, Mom, to the first time that they get their driver's license and they drive out of your neighborhood for the first time, and you watch them and you're going, oh my gosh, to college, to, I haven't had one get married yet, but it doesn't get any easier. It just changes.
That is true. You really do have to roll with it. Like my youngest son in high school, he didn't really, he was busy with his life. He didn't need to see me, and I was sort of sad about that. Well, then he goes to college and he calls me twice a day now. So I have more contact with him than I did when he was. So you can't just take it, that little go away, Mom. Well, then soon he'll be, Mom. Yeah. Oh, and that's the other thing. Here's a little thing you got to know.
Okay.
Pen and paper.
You can't call, now when he's older, you can't call him. But God forbid you don't answer the phone when he calls, and be right there ready to take any question, problem, issue, whatever. Because then he's like, where are you? Why aren't you answering me? What happened? But if you call him, he's like, why are you calling me? Like, what, so you just got to, emotionally, I know it's kind of tough, but
Susan, remember, they come back. They come back.
They always come. Yes, they always come back.
I have one more thing to say, Susan, which you just went up way notches in my book. And I looked at your Instagram, and the fact that you're letting your kiddo kick a soccer ball in your house. I mean, like, I was like, I'm like, I can't do that. That kid is kicking a soccer ball. I don't care if he's supporting Team USA or not. I was having a heart attack for you. So, like, I think you're a super mom. Yeah. Like, right there.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it.
Truth be told, 3 things have been broken. 2 sconces.
Oh, wow.
And a picture frame shattered. Yeah. But I can't, it's
well, they say
so
boys break your heart,
and
boys break your house and girls break your heart.
Stephanie knows.
That is true. And with that, we will introduce Stephanie to the Moms Club. Stephanie, can you tell Susan a little bit about yourself? And do you have a question for Susan?
I'm Stephanie Bradley. I live in Michigan, and I have 3 older boys. I have a 19, a 21, and a 23-year-old. And I've, as far as boys breaking your house, my house has been broken many times. And I was always like, is it going to be hard raising 3 boys compared to girls? Everybody's, all my friends that have girls just say they're so emotional. But I was like, I have boys that are very emotional too. Yeah. I mean, they're tough, but at the same time, they're babies.
Stephanie,
and they want their mom.
Tell us what you do for a living, because you carry this over a little bit.
Yeah. So, when I was young, and when I first had my kids, when I had Will, my oldest, when I was 31, and I was working in Chicago. I was working in advertising, and I had my big career going. So I kept working when I had my first child, but I would feel, I have to say, I would feel guilty because I loved my job, but I loved being home with my child, and I had a nanny, and I went back and forth, but I always felt like I was half at work and half at home, and I was always being pulled in 2 directions. So I've always thought that was hard for me. I worked till I had my second child, and then I didn't work for a while. I just stayed home with the kids, but then I really missed the work world. And then we ended up moving to Michigan from Chicago. And then I started, getting involved in the kids' school at, in elementary, and I actually have a fine arts degree. I was in advertising, and I did, in print design, and I kept doing the art projects at school. And everybody, they kept asking me, will you come in and do more art projects? Will you do after school art projects? And I kept doing more and more and more. And then before I knew it, in my 40s, I was going back to school to get my teaching certificate so I could teach art in elementary. So here I am, I was in 40 going to school with 18-year-olds trying to get my teaching degree so I could be an art teacher at the school.
I've been an art teacher at the school.
Yeah, so I've been an art teacher I work at a Catholic school. I've been an art teacher there now for 9 years, and I love being with the little kids. Yeah. I mean, it's fun because I get to experience the little kids still, but I still have my older kids that, you think they don't need you, but they do. Yeah. And all your kids are different. I have my oldest, who was 23, just moved. He was always independent, and he just moved to LA, and he went to San Diego State, and, I always missed him being out there. But when he finally said, Mom, I got a job in LA and moving, I broke down. I mean, I'm like, he's so far away, and he'd been in California for 4 years, but you still, when it gets, you can't believe it's like, it was so final to me. Like, he's off. He doesn't need me anymore.
Well, but Susan still has the fun years to look forward. I mean, they're all fun years, but
they're really fun. So young years are so fun.
Young kids are super fun. It's cool that you get to be with the little kids. Third graders are amazing. Fourth graders, still amazing. Then they start to get to middle school. That's a whole other story.
Middle school, they're very quirky.
It's different.
They smell weird. They have to start wearing deodorant in fifth grade.
Yeah. Bathing becomes an issue that has to be addressed. Well, so Stephanie, do you have a question for Susan?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can go back to, do you find it hard juggling being at home and then being at work and going back and forth?
Are you asking about mom guilt?
Mom guilt, I know.
Okay, so my whole thing, really, I feel I don't want moms to have mom guilt. Yeah. That like, how do we find a way to not have mom guilt? And I found that if you are, because let's face it, right? We don't become millionaires overnight. We don't become successful overnight. So why on earth would we think that we have to invest 24 hours of every day into our children? We make small investments, right, into our bank account that then we hopefully have some savings at the end, right? And so it's like sort of liken that to my time with my son, is that if I just make little deposits that mean something every day, that perhaps I don't need to be spending, morning, noon, and night with him, that when he comes home and if I invest a good solid 30 minutes, of focus, and we play ball and we break a sconce, that's a memory that we've created, and that's an investment and a deposit into Wyatt. And I don't feel guilty when I make that little deposit every day. It doesn't have to be a huge deposit. So that's how I sort of avoid the mom guilt.
That's amazing. That's great.
I tell you, they do remember those little moments.
Well,
right?
And when
they come back even as they get older, like, oh, remember we did that, Mom? That was really fun. Remember? They do remember that stuff.
And when Wyatt kicks the winning goal in the World Cup, then you will say, see, all those tiny moments that added up to some big things. That's great. Well, do you have a question for Stephanie, who is a mom of older boys?
Okay, so now you have 3 boys. How do you, Wyatt is 5, and I pretty much clocked it over the holiday weekend because I had, work, we didn't have work. So from Monday through Sunday, I was completely, 24/7 mom. We clocked it. I was requested to do something every 2.5 minutes. I took my stopwatch. I'm like, okay, it's 2.5 minutes. How do you manage? Because he's at that stage where he can't get things himself, but he does have a voice and he wants. So how do you manage that?
You buy a headset.
Well, I'd have mom time and child time. I was always like, mommy needs her time to do certain things. if you can wait, like, even if it's 15 minutes, if you can wait 15 minutes, I'll do this with you. And I mean, it's kind of holding the carrot, but I would do those things just to get a little time. Just be like, I'll be right there as soon as mommy finishes this one thing.
I thought I ran around as a waitress back in the day, but let me tell you.
Oh, you're a short order cook. You're like the plate person. You're everything.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, and
what a great question.
You have to get up again. I'm like, oh my gosh.
And you have to enforce that mom time too, because my mother was just reminding me when we were young, my mom would to get away, she'd go take a bath to relax, and because we're girls, we would all just come on in there because we told her we thought she was going to be lonely. And no, she wasn't lonely. She just didn't lock the door. So yeah, you have to enforce that mom time too, and make sure that you get it. Well, Jenny, welcome to the Moms Club. You want to tell Susan a little bit about yourself, and do you have a question
Susan,
for Susan?
I'm Jenny Burke. I'm in Austin, Texas, and I have an MBA, and I worked in marketing, and then I didn't work when I had the girls, and then I went back part-time, and then I was recently working full-time, and I got laid off, and now I'm consulting. So I've been in a whole bunch of different working mom situations, and no matter which one, I always felt like I was not doing enough. So now I've come to believe there's no possible way that I'm always going to, think that I can do everything.
Yeah.
But I have twin girls that are 16 years old. Yeah. So they are a lot of fun right now, and also super challenging. It's really, I think every age is great, but this is definitely.
What is most challenging?
Oh gosh. That struggle with independence, and how much do you let them do, and they don't want to talk to you anymore. This is the conversations I'm having, because they're starting to things like they like boys, I'm a pretty frank person, as Julie knows. And I want to have conversations about sex. And if you even say that, they're like, oh, I know. It's that horrified. And I'm like, let's just talk about it. Let's have a deep conversation about this. So that's I think just the connecting. And when you have to wait for your moments, you kind of have to sometimes they're like cats. You need to go get really busy or need some alone time. And then they come up to you and want to talk to you, or there's always shopping. Shopping is always a bonding point with girls.
Susan, I know that Jenny has a question for you, but I can tell you that Jenny is one of my closest friends, and I was watching her shake her head. Yes, they do. Jenny takes baths. They come into the bathtub, and then they text her, and they text her a lot. Questions and learning how to be a sounding board, especially for female children. They really don't want to hear you respond. They just want to tell you.
Yeah.
So I see you shaking your head yes to all these things.
Text all day long. I failed my test. My back hurts. I didn't have enough lunch. And then they come home. And
teachers hate me.
They're far away in their room, but they will still. I'm like, what is happening? Like, when are you going to talk to me?
Anyway, do you have a question for Susan? Jenny?
Yeah. Do you have a question?
Yeah, everybody already took my question.
Oh,
so
sorry.
I'm going to ask you. I wanted to know how it changed your job and having a kid, but I'm going to ask, what is the biggest thing you're doing with Wyatt to teach him to live green? Like, how are you? Oh. I know that's one of your passions, is what they said at the
top. Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, he's right off the bat, from a very small age, obviously the big thing is we take him to the beach and we do a beach cleanup. So and he's really big on this. Even now, we'll be driving down the street, he's like, Mom, trash, we need to go pick that up. And so that is the one thing that we definitely are involved with. So we either are part of the organization and we go with everyone to the beach cleanup, and he's been doing this since he was 3 years old. We get little gloves or a stick, and he's able to throw the trash in the thing, and collects, and he understands the importance of recycling and cleaning up. But we sometimes like to just put gloves on and we just go to the beach and we do it.
Yeah.
And it's it's fun for them. They like to have purpose. It gives them purpose. Mm-hmm. And they but literally we'll be driving down the freeway and he'll see off the off ramp, be like, trash. People like, can't get it right now, but we'll circle back. And that's terrible that they threw that away on the off ramp,
Yeah.
So that is I think the one we're very active in doing that.
Well, that is great. We don't want to miss out, just to show that going through this whole experience is very well worth it. Being a mom is amazing. And our kids are a little older. So like my youngest son is now in college. But today we don't want to ignore the foster care counts organization that you're part of. Because this morning, Julie and I were actually talking about, should we get involved with foster care? That'd be pretty cool.
Or respite care.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that organization.
Well, it's just a wonderful organization that really supports foster parents. And what, the one really beautiful thing that they do that I really love is they'll have this event in which they bring all the foster parents to whether it's a school or someone's home. And we have this wonderful carnival, and the parents get pampered. The foster parents get taken care of, but then the kids can interact with each other and have fun. And it's just a place where, other foster care kids can see each other and know that they're loved. And it's just honestly, like, don't tell my husband, but I mean, if I could have, 5 more kids, I would. And so that's always been a passion of mine. And my best friend, Monet, was, in the foster system. And so she turned me on to this particular organization. And so it's just always been a passion of ours. And, we're always involved with that.
That's
Thank you for asking that. I love it.
That is great and especially that it supports the foster parents, because I know some people that have been foster parents and it's the greatest exhibit of love you can give is to share something with a child that's in that situation. But it's also challenging sometimes because, sometimes I have a friend, they had to give the child back to a situation they didn't personally feel good about.
Right.
And so that can be challenging. So it's amazing. I mean, it's great that you're supporting those foster parents because they are true heroes. It really is a place
to support the parents.
That is amazing.
And take care of them and know that they're, they can confide and be heard and supported.
Yeah,
so,
that is great.
Thank you for highlighting that.
Ask you one last question, because since you're with Access Hollywood, tell us a great celebrity mom story. What's your favorite celebrity mom story?
Please tell me.
Inspire all the moms out there.
I mean, listen, my favorite celebrity mom story is still when I was in the pandemic. And my son was 2.5, 3, right? And there was no daycare, nannies. We don't have a nanny anyway. But there were no nannies, daycare, no preschool, nothing. And, we were one of the first shows, Access Hollywood, one of the first shows that before Fallon, before The Voice, before anyone, we were working remotely. We figured out how to do the show remotely. And we were one of the only shows on the air covering all the Netflix shows.
That's amazing.
And so I was working 24/7. And I remember 11 months into it I would put my son in the bathtub to take a bath so that I had 20 minutes to get something done, right? I'm like, okay, if I put him in the bathtub, I know he's not going to move and he's going to enjoy the bath. So I remember Kristen Davis, who plays Charlotte on Sex and the City. She opened up her home during the pandemic and had a few of our kids over and hired a teacher. And we had some relief and we had a place to go and it was safe and everyone was tested and everything. We were all, quarantining, but we had a place where we could go outside, drop the kid off. I had 3 hours. I would drop the kid off. I would come back and she'd be like, okay, the kids were great. And, that is kind of, she is Charlotte from Sex and the City. She's like the nicest person. And, that she did that for other moms was really kind of an amazing thing. And we'll never forget it. And she's just an amazing
that's a very
mother.
Charlotte thing to do.
That's a very Charlotte thing to do, right?
It is. And kudos to her. That is a great celebrity mom story.
Wow. Other people are going to have to step it up.
Exactly.
That's
right?
pretty
all about
big.
Supporting each other.
That is great. Well, first of all, thanks to all of our Zoomer moms. You were great. You asked great questions and you gave great answers. So thank you, Zoomer moms, for joining us today. And thank you, Susan, for being here. Everyone's going to want to tune into Access Hollywood, but where can we find you on social media and to watch Wyatt as he develops his soccer skills so he's not breaking anything?
I'm going to actually have to take some video of him, kicking a sconce off the wall.
That's right.
Next time. But yeah, you can check me out at S'more Hardy. But definitely tune in to Access Hollywood so you can see how other moms cope and help each other and support each other.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Susan. We really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Thanks all you moms out there. We want to have you check us out on Instagram at Inside the Moms Club and our website, Inside the Moms Club. And we have something very exciting. Check out our Instagram page because we are going to be giving away some amazing things for moms, especially for moms when you need your me time, like, you need a spa or you need, something that makes you feel good. We're all about making moms in the Moms Club feel good and be happy. So check us out at Inside the Moms Club. Well, time flies. It always does on our show. And we are sorry that we're out of time now, but we'll be back next time with celebrities and extraordinary moms just like you. We know your me time is precious and valuable. Thank you so much for spending it with us. Remember the Moms Club motto. If you don't laugh sometimes, you're going to cry.
Might just cry.
So laugh, moms. Keep laughing. Keep having a good time. We'll see you next time inside the Moms Club.